It has now been 1 week since I finished my 40-day water-only fast on air last time, and I figured I should check in and give you a follow-up on how things are going. As you can see, my Thunder shirt arrived in the mail.
Sons of Thunder.
So I thought that was pretty cool. So, first of all, to anybody who has been worried about my health, thank you. But I want to let you know that you don't really have much to worry about because I gained 20 pounds in the last week. I actually gained about 17 pounds just in the first 3 days. So yeah, I thought it was probably going to come back pretty quick. I think a lot of that might be water weight, maybe at least like 10 pounds of that. Definitely not a whole lot of muscle weight. So that only leaves one more thing. I got a lot of bones that started growing, so no, fat. So I've been okay with that. I don't really mind having a little bit of extra fat come back because I know how to burn that off. And keep watching these videos as I post them. I'll teach you how to do that too. But I'm most concerned about gaining some muscle right now. So I have actually been back to the gym 6 times just in the last week. I started on Tuesday. Monday was I was a little bit nervous, to be honest, because I had tried some food that I was not sure if I should have eaten right away. I'm going to be totally honest. I feel like the vegans duped me again.
Ha! You fool! You fell victim to one of the classic blunders.
I have nothing against vegans, but I do not believe in what they believe in. I think it's kind of like a belief system. One guy, he had a lot of good information about fasting, but he just couldn't bring himself to say milk or honey. Milk was cow pus and honey was bee vomit, and I'm not going to name names or who it was, but all I can say is by that logic, you could also say fruits and vegetables are just reorganized manure and dead rotting flesh, because that's what fertilizer is. So, I mean, you got to draw the line somewhere at some point. And here's the other thing. Jesus declared all foods clean. So as far as I'm concerned, I can eat all of that stuff. Now, I understand reintroducing it slowly, and I think there's a lot of wisdom to that because you don't want to hurt yourself, of course. But at the same time, I'm not going to just stick to fruits and vegetables forever. They had me thinking that if I was eating too much watermelon, I was going to get a hernia. And I overate a little bit of watermelon, and then I had, God forbid, some bread, and which was wonderful, but then that had me all concerned that I was going to completely ruin my system. So Monday I was very cautious about what was going on and making sure everything was going to go fine. And you know what? Everything went through fine. So I will recommend for anybody who's stopping the fast, starting with fruit is a good idea, just because it's moist. You get that moisture back. You get that hydration back finally. And then also you have nothing to worry about on the other end of things. Again, I don't want to get into the gross stuff that people just love getting into when they're talking about fasting. That's not me, but I will say I do recommend that. And for breakfast, which was never something I did before, I was having a little bit of yogurt and a bunch of fruit for breakfast almost every day this week, which has been one of my favorite meals of the day. In fact, even on Valentine's Day, we got some steak and lobster that was given to us. So that was another little blessing, and I got to have a really nice meal with my wife. On Tuesday, I woke up with more energy than I think I've ever had in my life. I went to the gym. I went and volunteered. I did some landscaping. I came home and worked on the computer and edited some videos until long into the night. I had so much energy. After that, I kind of went out of the frying pan and into the fire because I went from being super lethargic and weak that last week of fasting to having a lot of energy and then being super sore from going to the gym for the first time in over a month, even longer probably. So this whole week has been kind of recovering from that, and now I'm feeling a little bit better. Now that I've done legs the second time, which was yesterday, they're feeling a little bit better and that soreness is kind of going away. Really, what I should have recorded was not me eating that watermelon the first time, but me having real food the first time, because that reaction was amazing. It was heavenly. That first bite, there's a place called Kneaders out here, and we had a loaf of bread from Kneaders, which is really, really good bread. No preservatives, real moist, just great bread. And I took some of that bread, dipped it in some of this really good oil and vinegar that we have. It was an elderberry vinegar. Oh man, it was so good. My wife kept catching me in the kitchen, just sitting there with my eyes closed, just going, every bite was heavenly. I mean, it actually made me think of the sensations or flavors or things that we might not have ever tasted that we'll taste in heaven. It was probably going to be like that. And in fact, the roof of my mouth got all cut up and sore from every bite I would take. I would just push it into the roof of my mouth and just savor every grain of carbohydrate and sugar and oil and all that stuff. Like, oh man, it was so good. One other thing that I really liked, one of the first foods that I got back to was this. Can you see it? Justin's almond butter. Oh man. Okay, so there's even a story behind this. I was talking about the little favors of the Lord and just the little blessings that were all over the place during this fast. One of them was my wife came home with 2 of these. There was some kind of mistake in the ordering. They can't give this to certain kids at a daycare because of just, you know, having nuts. And so they have to have a special type of stuff, like I think it's sunflower butter or something. And anyway, they sent her the wrong stuff, so then she ended up with 2 of these, and Justin's is just my favorite, and I had been waiting for this. It was right before the fast was going to end, and I knew that was like a gift from heaven. I didn't realize that it was like kind of a sugary vanilla version of almond butter, which I probably normally wouldn't go for, but on that first day, when I put some of this on a celery stick and took that first bite, my heart almost stopped when I tasted sugar for the first time. It was just like real, like not just like the fruit sugar, so maybe I should say not real, but you know, the extracted, like, oh man, just that first bite, like again, every grain of sugar, I could taste it, and it was so good. Oh man, so I had 2 of these jars. I've already gone through one, and that's actually been the biggest challenge, the challenge that I was not expecting. I thought I was going to have to fight against this ravenous hunger. I was going to be so hungry I couldn't take it. But it hasn't necessarily been that I'm so ravenously hungry. It's that everything tastes so good. That's probably where the 20 pounds has come on. There have been several days where I've had to ask for prayer not to overeat because I'll just keep eating. I mean, I'm thinking about food and snacks right now. We were watching a scary movie for our date night the other night. We like watching scary movies. And this one was really scary. It was really haunting. It was Summerfold, something like that. But as scary as that was, and as haunting as it was, and as much as I was sucked into it, I was still thinking about food the whole time. Like, what's the next snack that I can go get? So yeah, that's been tough. It hasn't hurt me or anything, but definitely eating a little too much and overeating.
First, you gotta do the truffle shuffle. Come on!
So I'm trying to counteract that by lifting a lot at the gym. In fact, I'm to the point where I'm thinking I might even be able to go twice a day already. Believe it or not, my energy levels have been pretty good. So if I can do that, then that will at least help build that muscle back up and take advantage of the very big calorie surplus that I'm taking. But I will say it's been really nice having being able to make my bulking shake again, my protein shake. I'll show you how to make that on here too if you keep following. But it's very yummy to have the one that's for bulking and not the one that's for leaning down. One last thing about gaining the weight, I have actually said a prayer that would basically be mirroring Daniel when he did his fast at the beginning of Daniel, when he's first taken in to Babylon. So Daniel 1:15, at the end of 10 days, Daniel and his 3 friends looked healthier and better nourished than the young men who had been eating the food assigned by the king. Basically, Daniel said, let us just eat vegetables, and that way they don't have to eat the meat that's been sacrificed to other gods. And they did that to honor God, basically. And they said, okay, we'll let you do that and see how healthy you look. So how this relates to me is that I want to be maybe even stronger than I was before after this. I want people to see that they can do a fast, and they're not going to just be a weakling after that. I'm not going to be stuck at 150 pounds or damage my body. I want to be even stronger than I was before. So that's why I've started going back to the gym already. And I'm starting to try to put that muscle back on and get back into really good shape as quickly as possible. The good news is I still feel close to God, so I was worried that might go away. I still have that favor of the Lord. I feel like I'm seeing blessings. I'll mention a few of those in a minute here. But I will say it is harder to pray as often. It's harder to remember because before I was praying about everything, and I knew that reading and praying answered virtually any problem that I would run into. And now that's just not as common sense to me. It's not as immediate. It doesn't pop right into my mind. So I have to remember, like, oh yeah, that's right. That's a thing. But like I said, still having these favors of the Lord. In fact, I was at the gym the other day, and there was a guy who I'd say hi to. I don't remember his name, but I know he was a believer. Somehow that came out at some point, but I saw him on the other side of the room, and then it hit me. I thought, you know what? Now I'm no longer sitting on the sidelines, so I saw him, and I'm going to go talk to him to go see if I can pray for him. Started talking to him, and it turns out that he had said a prayer as he was walking into the gym that he would run into somebody who's trying to get to the next level with God, and that's what he was looking for. And somehow we started talking, and he was just like, you're the answer to this prayer that I just had. And he wanted to take 45 minutes to preach a sermon to me right there in the gym. He's like, hey, can we go take 45 minutes and do this? And I said, well, maybe a little bit less, because I kind of need to get my workouts in today. Like, it's especially important that I'm lifting right now. We're still connecting and texting and hanging out at some point in the future. Another little thing, this video that I did, the first one, has touched a lot more people than I expected. I was really doing this more than anything, I think, to record just for myself, to be able to look back at it and see where I was. And it was kind of a momentous thing. And also for the people who knew that I was doing this, I thought it'd be cool for them to be able to take part in breaking the fast with me, in a sense, But family members on my wife's side also have apparently really been loving it and inspired by it. And I was not expecting that at all. And that's great. Let me get into some of the things that I didn't mention in the last video, which maybe I should have, but it was already 30 minutes long. But one of the most important things was whether or not I should even be talking about this fast. That was a really big dilemma for me. So for those of you who are thinking, hey, you're not supposed to talk about a fast because that's what it says in Matthew, I just want to let you know that was a big concern for me, and I really had to pray a lot about it and think a lot about it and read and consult with other people about if I should be sharing that. So I basically eventually came to the conclusion that I felt like it could inspire other people, and I think I should do that because it'd be good to inspire more people to be fasting, and if it does that, then that's worth it, I think. So the other thing, the final thing that settled that for me was, again, I mentioned this book before, The Fast. There's a section in here where he specifically talks about that. I'm just going to read it real quick because it was significant to me. But he says, many people ask, should we even tell people we're fasting, since the scriptures say we must fast in secret? In the context of Matthew 5-7, Jesus is not speaking to the outward works of the disciples, but to their inward motivations. And just real quick, I'm going to read what he's talking about here, that verse. He says, This is Jesus talking. When you fast, do not be like the hypocrites with a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, and they may appear to men to be fasting. Assuredly, I say to you, they have their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, so that you do not appear to men to be fasting, but to your Father who is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. So that sounds like, on the face of it, don't tell anyone that you're fasting. But then at the same time, people are going to think you have cancer if you suddenly lose 50 pounds in a month, and you look really gaunt. So maybe you should tell them, or your employer, if they see you sitting around instead of being as active as you normally are. I mean, people are going to wonder what's going on. So what he says here is he's speaking to their inward motivations. He's not saying that you shouldn't tell people you're fasting. He's going to the very heart of your motivations, which Jesus did that all the time. So that aligns pretty well with what I understand from him. Are you doing this so that other people can see you fasting? Is that your inward motivation? And in that moment, when I considered that and prayed about it, that is the furthest thing from my motivation. I know the heart can be deceitfully wicked, but I'm telling you, in this case, that wasn't even a hint of a motivation for me. I was trying to do this for the miracles that I was going to see, and I intentionally kept it pretty private for most of the time, except for a few people, and near the end I came to the conclusion that I think I really do need to share this. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my heart on that issue as far as sharing it, and that's why I came to the conclusion that I did. One other thing, on the note of stuff that I didn't mention in the last video, and also that has to do with this book, The Fast, is there's a section where he's talking about dreams and how you should pray for a dream, especially when you're fasting, that might be like a defining thing for your life, or a defining scroll for your life is kind of the language that he used. And he talked about dreams being almost like chapter headers for the next chapter in his life that he would get. They would tell him what his next chapter was going to be like. So I decided to do that. I prayed about having a dream, and I did have one. It was on day 38. I actually had a few dreams that night, but there was one in particular that really stood out to me, and I didn't really understand the significance of it at the time. Now I'm wondering if it is significant. I don't know. The future will tell. Maybe it's just a random dream, and I'm okay with that. But I figured I should mention it was a dream where I was walking around a grocery store with one of the youth pastors, and we were looking at all the fruit, and we were kind of walking our separate ways, but we were on the same wavelength because we were skipping over the apples, the oranges, and the bananas and the simple fruit, and we were finding really unusual, strange fruit. We were finding like there was one that looked like a starfish, and I remember cutting it open and looking at it and going, whoa, this is a cool one. And I called him over and I was like, hey, take a look at this one. Isn't this interesting? And he'd go, whoa, yeah, that's neat too. And then he'd be over there and he'd find one. He'd be, hey, look at these. And he had some fruit that looked like a weird alien radish kind of thing, and we're like, wow, that's really cool. Like, we really admired the strange, unusual fruit. And we did that for a while. We were kind of going our separate ways, but we both had the same appreciation for it. And I didn't see the symbolism there at first, but when I woke up and the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, fruit, that's going out and laboring for fruit. That's the results of your evangelism and all that kind of stuff. And so it made me think that maybe both he and I in the future might be on the same wavelength with reaching people who are not usually reached, not the typical church-going person. Maybe we're going to go somewhere unusual or reach people that are not the common target, I guess, of American evangelism or something. So either way, we'll see what happens there, but I thought that was worth mentioning so I don't forget it also, just that I did have kind of an interesting dream during this time. When I had 2 weeks left, somebody recommended a book to me that I had been wanting to read this book for a while, and he let me borrow it, and then he said, hey, maybe you should read this book for your last couple of weeks. So I read In a Pit with a Lion on a Snowy Day, and it's so reflective. There we go. I strongly recommend this book as well. There's in particular one section that really captured what it was like to be in a fast, and it was talking about prayer mode. In chapter 7, he talks about that there's only 2 ways to live your life: survival mode or prayer mode. Survival mode is simply reacting to the circumstances around you. It is a pinball experience. Prayer mode is the exact opposite. Your spiritual antenna is up and your radar is on. Prayer helps us catch the opportunities God throws our way. Living in prayer mode is the difference between seeing coincidences and providences. Prayer has a way of helping us recognize that what we might dismiss as human accidents are really divine appointments. So that's another thing I wanted to say, was just how many things that those around me would not see as a possible opportunity that God was sending our way, or they see it as a coincidence. But when you're fasting and you're in that spiritual mode and you're praying all the time, it was like around every corner, there's a possible opportunity that God's sending my way. And when I would act on those, he would respond. And it was true. It was actually something that he was saying. It wasn't a coincidence, but you don't see those things when you're just living in the physical and living in the secular world. You have to be prayed up. And so start every morning with prayer. Start every morning reading the Bible. Don't worry about if you're going to be late to something. Maybe that sounds like bad advice, but I'm telling you, if you're sitting there doing that, thinking about what you're going to do next, you're not going to be seeing the opportunities. You need to realize that what you're doing is more important than anything else you're going to do the rest of the day. Focus on that, and then you're going to start to see where those opportunities might pop up. You're going to see that a verse is directly impacting a situation that you're in right now that you wouldn't have seen before. You would have thought it was a coincidence, things like that. And I think that if you have a hard time doing that, fast. Do a 3 to 5 day fast. Start with something like that to realign you, and you'll start to get a vision for that stuff, and then you'll be able to hopefully keep it going once your fast ends. Anyway, I appreciate you watching this video. I'll probably do another update maybe next week too, just to fill you in on how things are going. Hopefully I'll keep getting stronger and keep getting more energy. And thank you for everyone's blessings and prayers. Take care.